Welcome back to insideX episode number 10. Man, we are moving right along on this off season, and we are days away from that first gate drop there. And man, we got a great show planned for you today. Obviously, we're going to talk about the 450 class. Last time we talked about 250s. We're going to talk about the big dogs, the Dylan Wright guys out there. He's got the number one plate. He's going to try to defend that. So we're going to talk about who's the guys to be watching for, who's going to be chasing down that number one. We also, once I get Ryan in here, his favorite segment, ARMA Rewind. Check out ARMA on social media. Those guys are pumping out some good stuff. Obviously, they have Jeremy McGrath, Nick Way, Adam Cincerello, and Chad Reed leading that ship there. But we get the rewind, and we're going to St Julie this week, 2008. Some great racing there. And then we move right along. We're going back out to the track, have that KTM 350, and I'm going to do a little test on that to see if it's more like a 250, more like a 450. You have to stay tuned and watch that because I actually really enjoy the KTM machine, much like the Gas. It's a good bike, and it could be that vet bike you need, for that 30 plus, 35 plus, 40 plus, whatever it be, but it could also be a good pro bike. So stay tuned for that. Also, KTM is bringing us the social media this week, and we're going to talk about the Pit Bike National that just went on. It's the Mini Bike Triple Crown, we called it, and man, did it turn out awesome. It's all on Flow Racing, so recap that whole archived video there. I think it's a 3 hour and a half video of all pit bike racing. There was 3 mains, and man, there were some good winners, some awesome racing, good battles throughout every single class, from the 50s all the way up to the old dogs in the 150 class. And lastly, we're going to just talk about the racing coming up. In the outro, we're going to just talk about where you can find the best place to find the social media spots, all the good racing, Fox Sports, obviously, if you have TV, the linear partner of ours, and Flow Racing if you're going to stream it on your computer, phone, or your smart TV. But stay tuned. We got lots more. I'm going to bring Ryan in here right after this short break.
I will never stop. Would you want me to slow down? Would that make it easier for you? Or would you want the fight? The pour your heart into it kind of fight? Or should I stop working so hard? I know you'd want me to slow down. I know it would make it easier for you. But then the gate drops. I wouldn't be anywhere else. One goal, one vision.
Welcome back to another episode of insideX here, and we got our guy back in here, the ARMA Rewind guru, Ryan Gauld, and we're going to 08.
That's all I'm good for, energy.
Yeah.
That's it. I bring the energy. I bring it. I was doing ARMA outside all by myself. I'm just
shots of ARMA.
I'm jacked. Ready to go for another ARMA Rewind.
Oh, I love it. I love the energy you bring, and it's 2008, so we're getting closer to that 2010 era, and we're St Julie, Quebec. I always like this track. I rode it a few times. Good clay-based track.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I picked this one is in the significance. That's why we kind of there's always something to give, something to talk about, just other than the racing. This was the first year that Monster Energy joined the series in 08. This is the first year the Leading Edge team had a team, and they were sponsored by Monster Energy. And this was the first year in the first round that the 250 class went across the entire coast.
Yeah, for the last 8 years, it was split, right?
Yeah,
2000 they split it.
Yep.
And then
so there was a lot of significant stuff at this race. I was trying to remember the racing and this and that. I know Beaton's in here and Teddy Mayer and stuff. There's going to be a lot of stuff. We'll see. But the significance of it, this was the big year that the Monster Energy joined and really put our series kind of on a new map as far as globally and
money.
The energy money. Yeah, the cottage that Monster built was one of the jokes we made back then. But good stuff.
All right, well, let's roll that tape and get to the race action. We got the 250s up first there. Oh, hey.
That guy fits the screen well.
There you go, and that's you.
The screen well.
You didn't miss your flight on this one.
No, I made it to this. That was a drive. I think I drove. There's Teddy Mayer right there, and Kieran Fitzgerald, the 36. Oh my God, Brandon Cowie, 554. I haven't seen that kid or heard that name in a long time. But there's Teddy Mayer, who was in the Monster Julies.
Yeah, they came on the scene too.
Oh, that was
big year in
the greatest addition.
Yeah,
the greatest addition. Redhead Julie always reminded me of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Jessica Rabbit.
Yes, yeah.
Google that, kids. Google that.
Google that one there.
To the 5 we go for the first first 250, and a stacked field. And if nobody has ever been to St Julie, look at this. Another picturesque type track. You could see it from one vantage point in there, and lots of good racing. And I think it was beaten, and I want to say that is Jeremy Medag's up in first, right
Ryder
there.
down.
Side. Yeah, Ryder going down right away, and that's a horrible spot to crash.
Yeah, that's a bad one.
But that was beaten. There's Benoit, right there at early stage. Benoit, and there is 41 is Nick Evenou. Yep. And there is your the champion at the end of the year, Eric Nye, sitting in about fourth position there.
He rode KTM for a few years here, right? With Andy and the guys.
Yeah, and this year, Ryan Lockhart, his mechanic.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Ryan Lockhart, his mechanic. And there's the full mag, as Travis would always call Marc-Antoine Genereux on the number 38, I believe he is in this one here on the Honda. Who's that going down? Oh, that is Paul
Lamb.
Hey, nice memory right there. Paul Lamb. There's Beats pulling away. Beats, this 2008 series was his championship. And he threw it away all the time. Winning motos by 30 seconds, have a crash. Coming back, win a moto, have a crash. Like he just could never, ever hang on to it. And there's Aaron Harvey going down right there, having a little tip over on the Blackfoot horse bike. And he would actually turn it on later in the series. And at Moncton this year, he would have a huge crash and break his femur.
Oh, shit.
And that's what take him out. And there's an unbelievable story of Joe Skid and stuff like that. I'm sure we'll get down to that ARMA Rewind down. And there's Shane Weeb getting stuff by Mason Phillips and him tipping over, a bunch of guys running him over. But a very cool sort of European type track. It wasn't fast, but up and down hills. You had to be very technical out here. I remember every time I rode this place, the yarn pump was real.
Oh, well, you come from you like the sand base. This is the kind of track I liked. Is a little bit of rut, a little hard packed. You got to just work the throttle.
Where are you out here, Kyle?
I'm not. I retired before you retired that Go for Dunes race there. So.
There's Jeremy Medaglia. He was the lone MX2 or 250 rider back then for the Rockstar Energy team. Him and Benoit battling it out. And it's funny looking at them at this point. You would have thought Medags was going to become the champion, and Benoit ended up becoming a two-time 250 class champion.
And it's Lachutes was probably the brand that Benoit rode for, right?
That's right, yeah.
And Privateer.
Yeah, and there's Teddy Mayer right there going up on the inside there. He would have a great year on this one and come up just a little bit shy of Eric Nye. And the Noof team was the mechanic here. Quite a squad right here, but lots of good battling. And this triple down the hill, it was gnarly because look at this. One guy doesn't do it, one guy does do it. Three wide in the turn. They run into each other, and there's Beats, who was leading. If you remember, he was leading.
So he's behind now.
He went down, tipped it over. Beats leading, gone, checking out, and he goes down all the time out there. And then look at that little rubbing his race right there between a couple of Americans. Nye putting it to Evenou right there. Yeah. And but Eric Nye on the 24, he was just kind of there all year. Yep. He only won one round. He went 1-1 the next week here at Go for Dunes, which was a surprise for being a California guy. And he would end up bringing home the championship by the end of the year.
You hear that, kids?
Chip pays off. Yeah, you got to be in it to win it. And he actually wins this moto.
Oh, there you go.
But he doesn't win the overall on this day. I think Mayer ends up winning the overall on this day.
Mayer, Medaglia, Benoit.
But Beaton was leading. Gets 8th.
Oh, Beats.
Come on, Beats.
He was on a Clearbrook Yamaha, right?
He better not show his brand new kid Jet these races. He's just going to go, shake his head, do the face emoji.
Tune out on these ones.
Robbie Marshall in there, Morgan Homans. 69 is Dougie D. Dougie DeHaan. This is his last kick in the can. Actually, the very next weekend at Go for Dunes was his last Canadian pro race ever.
Yep.
Right
That's
there.
Wild. Good career he
gate
had.
Down right there, 450 boys coming into that first, a very unique turn to an off camber.
Yeah.
Very slow kind of coming in. And
right into some jumps.
And Weird Medags gets the whole shot there. So Tyler Medaglia, who's now into the big bike class, full-time after 2007, and he actually comes up just a little bit short of this championship as well. He has a great year, and there's Dubé on the number 4, and that is Klatt right there.
Yeah, 111 Klatt. So he came back, I remember 07, he went and got that Star Racing, and then he got Cernix, picked him up for Supercross and Canadian Outdoors. So there's
Fasciotti. Interesting story about Fasciotti. He crashed in practice, broke his collarbone.
Yep.
Races, ends up going 1-1 on this day. And then skips the next round to Go for Dunes because he couldn't hang on.
Smart.
And then he brings home the 2008 championship.
If you see the results from that, Medaglia was actually leading a good portion of that series.
Yes.
But Fasciotti went on an absolute tear.
Yeah, he won.
My God.
After that Go for Run, he won 8 motos in a row.
It was insane,
like that,
and he just he took that championship, and Medaglia kind of lost.
Zeb Dennis right there, just getting to get lapped by the boys here by Klatt and Medag. So I think Klatt moves into the lead right here, and starts.
So Fasciotti, Fasciotti's a little bit back.
Yeah,
right now.
he's in about 4th or 5th. That was actually him that tipped over in that turn right there, and there he is right now, just hounding. And this is the year that Fasciotti just found. He just found that everything clicked with that Yamaha, him and JSR training together, and this would become his first of 6.
Yeah, who would have thought that would have been his first championship after breaking his collarbone here, not racing Go for Dunes, and then he goes on to win the championship after not really showing any huge signs there. He makes that pass and flat, no problem.
Goodbye right there, blue flags. Jakey Lee back there, the old assistant referee, Jakey Lee. But yeah, you thought Klatt was going to come back and dominate this series. There's Blair Morgan. And unfortunately, this was to be the year that we'd have Blair Morgan's accident at the Montreal Supercross later on. And the wild thing about it, Morgan was having an amazing year. He finished 4th in the series at the end of the series, and he was just still going. And unfortunately, he had that weird accident in the Montreal Supercross that left him paralyzed, but still an iconic and heroic racer. But Fasciotti, Klatt, Medags, Northrop. Morgan, 6th place. Eastman right there. Liam O'Farrell, Jay Burke, and then Jeff Gibson. Jeff Gibson had a rough year after finishing 3rd the year before. Just can never seem to find his way.
I feel like 08 got a little quicker or something. He got more talent injected into it. He was also having some
health issues, I remember that year. Something with his arms or something like that. He could never seem to get rid of arm pump and stuff like that. But there's Evano getting the whole shot, and Beats once again. And if you remember, this is the year that Frenchie was doing everybody's motor, C4MX.
Oh, right. That's right.
He was doing the leading edge guys, and he was doing Beaton's guys. And if you watch every one of these rounds, they're up front at every one of them.
Jeez,
Frenchie
C4
was really good at dialing in the motors there. And there's all the boys jumping down. That triple down the hill.
That triple is huge.
It was big, and it was hard to make that main inside line at the bottom of it if you cased it and stuff like that. And there's all the boys clicking through right there. And
I like that corner at the bottom.
Hoyer, not a great start, but yeah, Evano off to a great start. And again, this is the very first year that the Monster Energy leading edge Kawasaki team would be put together. Evano, Hoyer, and Mayer, and they had a good year. Mayer finished 2nd in the series that year.
Yeah. So who was the eventual winner? Sorry. Oh, it's
Eric and I.
We talked about that.
Eric and I would come out winning, and again, he won one round. He won one round all year long, and this is the other moto. And there's Marc-Antoine Genereux there battling out, and that's Kieran Fitzgerald, South African's own, and battling out. Or was that Ryan Millar that might have got the start right there? I couldn't picture that one, but here's those boys right at the end. And this is pretty wild about the mechanics area. They did the start, and then you actually had to cross the bridge, cross that little rickety bridge, and then go back to make sure your riders got in. Yellow flag waving. Again, this is also the year that the jumping on the yellow flag changed.
So you could.
For the pro, so in the pro class, you were allowed to jump on the yellow flag. I'm pretty sure this is the year, because prior to that, we were getting dockings happening where you were, it just didn't make sense. It was the right move. The pros should know when to jump and when not to jump. And when a yellow flag is waving, you know that a rider is down, but sort of not in harm's way.
I seen Medaglia in there, Jeremy.
Yes.
And it's funny how Tyler and Jeremy's career went. They went kind of back and forth on 450s, 250s, because I know next year they were both teammates in the 450 class.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's like they bounced back and forth trying to find that class to win the championship. Obviously, Tyler got a couple there.
I think the deal was with Jeremy just had to do everything his own
Jeremy
way.
Here.
Yeah, Jeremy had to, goes a little off track. Hanging on. It does actually have the slide out right there. Throws
and
it away.
I think that's the exact same Suzuki they built today.
Yeah. Yes, I think you are correct, sir. But with Jeremy, he wasn't difficult to work with on teams, but he had to have everything his own way, and it was either his way or the highway kind of attitude, and it sort of bit him in the butt. When he made decisions, whether they were going racing team-wise, stuff like that. And unfortunately, because he could still be racing. He's younger than Tyler. Yeah. I don't think he's quite 30 yet. Good shot of Aaron Harvey and Medags battling right there. But he just, that was the way he was, and that's how it was. And that's why I don't think his career went as long as it possibly could have. And hey, whatever, more power to him. He had great results. So when you get results, you're allowed to sort of speak your own terms.
Yeah,
and that's what
he had a lot of good rides, and good teams picked him up in a good heyday of his time. And that's Mayer getting that win. I think he gets the overall as well.
Yeah, he does get the overall, and this would be the very first overall and moto win for that team. That would go on to have an illustrious career, like lots of championships with Metcalf and Politelli's, and we're going to get into that stuff. We're going to see it, but there's Mayer, Avenue, Harvey, Medags, 1, 2, 3, and the final MX1 moto. Now, it was hot.
That track would dry out so bad too. All you can see right there, the dust.
You can see the dust. It was hot, and the watering system wasn't. It was just spigots coming out of the ground.
It's so hard when you got a track.
Yeah,
when you got a hill track like that, it's so hard to water those. And it's clay too. You can't pound it with water.
And the crowd just stuffed up there. Poutines and Coors Light, endless supply of poutines and Coors Light.
A couple cigarettes there.
And I'm actually probably halfway deep into a poutine and a Coors Light right now before I grab the mic to talk to whoever I would have
set down the poutine and
but Gibson gets that early lead, but Fasciotti, the guy's got a broken collarbone right now.
It doesn't look like
he's got a broken collarbone. I remember them like there's a shot in this show, we didn't put it in this ARMA Rewind, but he's like, you see him wincing, he's moving his arm, and his trainer at the time, Todd Schimlick, they're moving, and it doesn't look good, and then the guy goes out and just like absolutely dominates.
Man, imagine that Monday or Tuesday after, and they're like, hey, you know the guy that just smoked you guys this weekend? Yeah, he's not racing next weekend because he's got a broken collarbone from that race.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
tough conversation with the team manager.
You're lying. You got to think that maybe if Kijiji was alive back then, a lot of these pro bikes might have been for sale on that Monday. Okay, retirement's coming. We're selling this bike because I got beat by the guy with one wing.
Yeah.
Gibson, here's my Dags again. So this year, Tyler was awesome on that 450 using that recluse clutch that we talked about in the last episode with Mitch Cook. And if you got to sit on this bike, I remember I was working with MXP back then, and I got to sit on his bike. I swear it was like riding a Strider. It was so nimble, and his bars were like tight, and I'm like, how does he go this fast in this thing? And Tyler's bike setup is strange compared to a lot of other racers that I've known over the years, but he made it work. And this year, man, he came up just a little bit short of winning that title because of this guy right there. Oh, that's not him. Sorry, that's Jimmy Nelson actually on the 25. But the number 2 of Fasciotti, he was just, like you said, after Go for Dunes, when they went out west, all the hard pack stuff, he just went on a tear.
It's the same pass Fasciotti put on Gibson.
There's Marco Dubé, number 4, had a great year. This is one towards the end of Marco's career. And if you look at Marco, he is wearing every piece of safety equipment you could possibly buy at any roaddistributing.com dealership, anyone in the dealership. Yeah. He wore everything. He looked like he was ready to go.
A robot.
Like a robot wore like one of those.
He looks stiff on the bike.
Yeah, and if we watch, I'll go back to Rewind in 08, Go for News the next week, he has one of the most unbelievable crashes we catch on camera. No. And luckily enough, he is wrapped up like that with all that gear because, man, does he ever hit the ground hard. And but there it is, Fasciotti.
Fasciotti taking the win.
Broken chicken wing and going 1-1. It's, unbelievable. Look at Dubé still gets 6th in there wearing all that. That'd be hot. Yeah. Look at he's going to outer space.
Oh, man. The fans love him there. It's crazy because he was number 4, and I don't feel like he was that top 5 pace in 08. Obviously, 07, he got the number. 07,
he was number 5 on a KTM in 07, like a privateer wearing FXR gear. And back then, FXR really wasn't notarized as like the classic gear, and then it kind of kept growing. He was the very first FXR MX athlete, I believe.
Talking to Dubé just real quick, he probably started pro. You would have known because you were about the same, like 95?
We started the exact same year, 95. 1995, we both turned pro together, yeah.
Man, he went till, that was 08, and he was probably closing it out there, so 15-year career.
Yeah, no, he had a good career.
Man, it's crazy to think like Fasciotti did 18 years. I want to say Medaglia has maybe gone 19 years now.
If he hasn't, he's probably going to look at the longest and just keep going.
Yeah.
Right?
He's keep going and even Davey Fraser, a guy that's maybe not as decorated as those two, but still going, still doing the journeyman thing. He's going to race again this year.
Yeah, so. Fasciotti was 02. Medags was 03.
Yep.
So I think Medags is still going.
Yeah, I think he's 19 years.
This will be 19 years. This will be his 19th year pro, I would guess, right? So coming up, and he's going to race one of our events. I know, and we just saw him a couple weeks ago at Paula. Yep. So he's long live. He's just one of those guys that just keeps kind of going. Like those
John
Dowdy type dude, Keith Johnsons and stuff like that. And actually, quick shout out, all the best to Mike Treadwell. Had an accident a little while ago, so best to.
We've seen a bunch of him in the rewind, so that's
the rewind. So hopefully he's going to be feeling better here. Lots of good news keep coming, so hopefully get better. But another ARMA Rewind in the books. Fasciotti, broken collarbone, kicks everybody's butt. Like
smokes him.
If I was a team manager on that day, he's come back to the pits and be like,
"Y'all fired.
You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. I'm hiring my wife, my daughter,
cool.
my son. Your son still sucks on a soother. It doesn't matter. He could have beat you today. You know what I mean? Like this. Like you're fired. You're fired."
But that's ARMA Rewind from St Julie, Quebec, and that's 2008. We're moving right along, but we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to talk about the new 450 guys, the 2021 guys, after the break. All right, welcome back to insideX. We just seen the 2008 edition of CMRC Motocross. Now we're going to jump to the 2021 450 class. And right out of the gate, I want to say the two guys that are going to be the spotlight. Obviously, last year's winner, Dylan Wright. But the guy that's kind of swapped championships in that 250 class for a while, Jess Pettis, joining the field.
Yeah, we had to bump him up. He's earned the right to become a big boy now. And can he, from what we saw with Dylan Wright, I don't see it. I don't see it happening. And of course, Jess is still kind of injured, just getting back on the bike. He's got that time. He should be good to go by round 1. And then, of course, that Walton round might be handy for a guy like him on that Sunday, Walton number 2. But Dylan Wright was so dominant last year, and he knocked out arguably the toughest competitor that has ever graced our series in Phil Nicoletti. He actually did take him out by accident. It was an accidental thing, but I don't see that changing, man. He won, he dominated Gopher Dunes. He won numerous 1-1-1s on the 3 moto formats. It was just like, it was an extraordinary effort by him, and it's going to be a tall order for anybody to knock that number 1 plate away from him to go back to back. Pettis, I would say, is the guy, and then maybe Cole is the other guy. The KTM squad, I think, has got the best team behind it to maybe chase that plate.
And we've seen it in the past where, Cole used to have a teammate with Cabin, then he was solo in that outdoors, and the GDR guys had the two, the Michael Lessie and the Fasciotti up there. So now it's kind of the role reversed, and I don't know if there's team tactics or anything that comes along with this. We'll soon find out. But now the KTM is kind of like 2 guys against 1, and I think that if it was Cole and Pettis, I don't think they look at it like that. But a fan like us, we're going to be like, hey, is this gonna play into it?
Well, if it comes down to that last round, and whether it be Cole or Jess, KTM orders might come into play saying, hey, we got to squeeze Dylan out or some sort of like that. But that'll be interesting. That is an interesting look at it for sure. We don't really ever see a lot of that in Canada. It never seems to play out that way, but that would be the team where I guess you could focus on where that could possibly happen for sure. But Dylan was just so good last year. His program is very similar. It is a new bike. For the 21 Honda, but as we can see with Sextons and Roxons and even the world champion there,
Tyga,
yeah. I'm losing his name right now. All of a sudden, I can't think of his name.
Geyser,
Tim Geyser. Yeah. So the bike is world, and of course we know the GDR guys. They do their work. GDR Honda and the SSS suspension. So it's going to be hard to bet against him, but I guess, for sure, the next guys, you got to think Pettis and Cole probably get that nod over Moff, even though Moff finished the last year so good, and he's back in a very familiar territory.
And you got to look at the tracks, too. Dylan Wright, he flies at all those tracks. You know what I mean? Like Walton, Gopher Dunes,
This is the Dylan Wright. If we really painted his picture quite easy for him.
Like he's so dominant there. His home track, Saint-Denis, Deschambault, he's not too far. He's always done well and won there. And then Walton, he's a many-time champion amateur, and he's won in the pro. And then Gopher Dunes is his home track. So that looks good. Pettis has been strong at those tracks too. So those 2 guys, I want to say.
You look at their series last year, it was almost identical, right? I think Pettis got a 6th in one moto maybe, and Dylan got a 4th, I think.
Yeah.
Like they were almost identical the entire way. So it's going to be interesting to see how Pettis transitions onto that big bike, especially coming off that Supercross injury. And he's going to be working. He's going to be fast. It's just the confidence. Does he believe in it? They used to be teammates on MX 101 years ago, so they know each other. He was able to sort of watch Dylan last year, and it's been a long, long time since we've seen a rookie 450 back in the Dusty Klatt era we were talking about, and then Dylan, or no, I guess not that long. Sorry, Dylan last year do it. So can we see it again back to back
years? Yeah, and you talked about MX 101 squad. Now they have 2 450 guys. They got some help with Carlson there, and they got Keelan Meston and Sean Moffenbauer. Talking about Sean first. He came on strong late in that outdoors. Not that great in the Supercross portion, but in the outdoors, when he was at Saint-Denis, he was up there with Dylan and Phil battling for a win.
Yeah, he had 25 minutes in him, right, of that speed. And it's not, I don't think he wasn't in shape or anything. I just think that the intensity, those guys can carry just that next sort of notch. But I'm interested to see how Sean comes in this year. I feel like he's very relaxed. He's not, super active on his social. He's a little bit older than these guys. He's racing against kids. He's got to have 8-9 years on these guys. I don't think he's quite 30 yet, and Dylan's just 21 or 22. Pettis is very similar. I think what's Cole now? He's 28. So they're the established sort of experienced guys. But with this series, the way that it's crushed, it sort of caters to that younger kid. They don't have as long to get back, and maybe they don't need that hot tub that night, or maybe a little Epsom salt bath or whatever might need for the older guys. Not that they're super old like ourselves, but a little bit more recovery, and that's our series doesn't do that. So the recovery time for Dylan and Pettis might help that. But I love what I saw out of Moff last year. He really just found that next gear. Does it carry on? I've always busted Moff's chops about where he came from being a total beginner, and now he's like an iconic person in our history, and it'll be interesting to see. And back on home turf, him and KT, Kevin Tyler, a team manager at MX1, they get along. It's a great combo, and even having Keelan in there They're great friends.
Yep.
It's a very homely, very family-oriented squad.
You look at Moff's career, how it went, and like you said, he came from that level. He got to where he won the 250 championship. Then he went to the 450, and it was kind of like he's doing these learning curves. And I feel like he's going to be peaking here, where he's going to be at that championship caliber, and he could jump out there. But another guy that we haven't talked about yet, the Cowie squad. No more Medaglia on there, no more Gerke, but they got the number 2 machine back, and that's Marshall Welton's going to take over that machine.
I don't know if you could call him a sleeper because he's been pretty good the last years, but I feel like he's going to be good.
Yeah.
He puts in the work. He's part of that Club MX atmosphere where you saw your Phil Nicolaides come from, Zach Osborne, these guys that are just, these real men of men that race kind of thing. And obviously the outdoors, it takes that strength and that confidence. He's going to have it. The bike is good. We saw what Gerke did on us, so we know that thing is not going to be quite sort of like we talked about last show with the 250. But I really think that he's going to be battling. I think that he'll be Dylan's main competition in my eyes.
Wow.
Once the gate drops. Yeah, I don't know if that's a hot take or what I call that,
but a hot take.
I feel like that he's the what I've seen out of him and racing, his very relaxed look at racing and something. I think he's going to be the guy that gives Dylan the most fits coming out of the gate.
I like that.
And then maybe Pettis and Cole slip in there.
Yeah.
And like Cole, obviously you know your brother better than me. We saw him a couple weeks ago at Pala have an okay race. It was a bit of a throw into the mix, but yeah, I never know what I'm going to see with him. He's so just kind of keeps to himself. He's not huge social-wise. He doesn't post, but I know he does the work. He's tough as nails. And this one is that one that on his shoulder. I know he wants to get it. That MX one, he's, we call him the indoor specialist in Canada, and he's shown that. He's won the championships. But I feel like it, and we're starting at Walton, which is handy for him. He's great at that track.
Yep.
But if he doesn't come out and do what Cole can do in that first moto, I feel like it could steal the whole thunder, and then it's going to take him time to climb back up.
I know. We seen it a few years ago when he made a run, but then he hurt himself. Actually had a chain come off in Prince George. He came out of the gate and won that first round.
Yes.
And that year looked like it could have been the year, but then chain come off the next one, and then some injuries that he battled through the time off. So I think that's kind of lingering. And then last year he comes in, gets hurt. Well, Epstein-Barr kicks in, and this year he's like, man, it's, and
he probably doesn't, he doesn't kind of know where he's stacked either. Like he hasn't seen these guys in a while. He hasn't really raced Pettis. He hasn't raced Dylan in a long time. Like that kind of stuff, a little bit of outdoors. They got into it a bit, and I don't think they're, Christmas card sharers kind of guy. So, and he's like, man, he wants to get it done. It's not that I don't think retirement is a thing, but this really is Cole. This is all he does.
Yeah.
And so if that focus gets a little lax, so I think he needs to come out and whether you're talking to him or it's Steve Beatty Mechanic, that first round, he's got to come out swinging. He needs that first moto win right there, and I think that'll set the tone for Cole Sears.
A win, or just like being able to reach that win, like in that thing, like, oh, okay, I can beat him next moto. I agree with that. That's it's time to go. It's time to go, and there's no sitting back in that first round.
You won't invite him to family dinners. Mama T says, "Look, you got to win this year.
You're done.
No more home cooking.
You're done." Moving right along, I have on my list is Tyler Medaglia. We were talking before. We're not sure exactly what his schedule is. I'd love to see the guy do it all.
Yeah.
But
he's still got some aspirations to do some GNCC stuff. Actually, I think that series takes a break in the summer, so he won't do that. But I know he's talked about doing Southwick, and so we might just see him pop in and pop out. Like that's just what his sort of transition and what I think his goal is right now. But what we saw at Pala a few weeks ago on a a board bike, it was an enduro tank on it, and a different ignition on it or whatever. So he's so gifted, but I truly believe that this series doesn't cater to a guy like Tyler anymore. No. Everything's too quick. It's too tight. The recovery, the motos, that whole 15-minute thing, man, he is so fast. Still, you know what? It's up in the air.
He is a good starter. When he gets some starts, he can run with it.
I would like to see him pop into Walton 1. Yeah. And if things go well, I see him sticking with it just because that's what he does. And let's go T-Dags.
Win the first weekend. Let's go. Keep it out there.
And he is on the gas this year, so it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, sort of a new bike and brand. So it'll be interesting. But I mean, there's no doubt in my mind when he does show, he could upset that apple cart. If, say, he goes around 1 and then doesn't show up to, say, I don't know, Sandali or maybe the first Deschambault or whatever it is, and then those guys are in a point stall, he could fit right in there and steal some points from, say, a Cole or like that kind of thing. Yeah, I'm calling him a point stealer. Tyler Medaglia is now a point stealer if he doesn't race the series. Yes, a point stealer. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes there, kind of doing his own program, and he's just still having fun, and that's what's cool about Tyler. He just comes out and has fun.
Yeah, and speaking of gas, obviously that newly formed team with Steve Sims there, we talked about Gain gainer in the 250 edition, and also he'll be teammates with Logan Leitzel. We've seen him last year, the number 20 machine, and he'll be
it'll be interesting where he's going to fit in. He was kind of with Gainer last year, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and Liam O'Farrell, all right in that little mix there. I don't see it getting any better than that, right? And you got Wright, Cole, Pettis, Meston. Meston is right on the tail end of the goals. Madag's fitting in a little bit there. Welton, sorry, I forgot Welton. So you got 5 sort of big guys, and then after that, I think it's your Mestons, your Leitzels, and stuff like that. Cartwright in there maybe. And then if Tyler shows up, maybe he steals again in that top 5 spot. But it'll be great. Logan seems like a real nice kid. I never really got to know him a ton last year. Guy lived in a pickup truck.
He's a nice, great kid.
But he was super nice, very friendly, and it's good that he's found a little home. And I mean, it's tough this year to come up here and make the money that maybe guys used to do on the American side, but he's found a home. I believe he's actually found a fiance as well.
In Quebec,
he's dual citizenship as well.
Part Canadian now.
So it'll be good to see how he makes it this summer, and having him under Steve Sims, he's such a veteran, he knows what to do, and that might help him maybe get that next spot a couple times in a few motos.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. It's not. I feel like the 250 field is very young and like lots of depth to it. This one's going to be more concentrated on that top 5, and judging by what we're talking about, I see your picks being a Dylan Wright, Welton Pettis is going to be battle for the second and third, and then the Moff and Cole, and then carry on from there with the Leitzel, Cartwright, and
I'm telling you, if Cole comes out and wins Moto number 1, I change that whole attitude. I know he is a very confidence-driven racer from my outside looking in. I know him well, but obviously know him better. But once he gets that confidence going, I've seen it happen before. I've seen it when he won his 250 title. I've seen him when he just popped in the 450 days. But if it doesn't go that way, then I got to bump him back. I truly believe that first moto was so big for this series for MX for Cole Thompson.
So that's we'll have to re-collaborate with this on the Walton, and we're gonna have to talk about the 250 class, 450 class. But that is it for the 450 class. Those are kind of the gunslingers we have going into this year. But we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the farm, and I got a new bike, another week, and we're gonna try out this KTM 350SX. So this thing, a little bit in between the 250 and 450. Obviously this bike would be in the open class, the 450 class. It wouldn't be able to ride against the 250s, but we've tried the 250 Yamaha, we've tried the 450 Yamaha, and the Gas 450. So we're gonna try out this 350 and see where it stacks up. I always get a lot of questions from either young kids that are trying to get into that big bike range, or vet riders like myself who just want to maybe take a little bit off that 450 power. We know that Yamaha super fast, the Gas a little bit more tameable, but this 350 we're gonna give it a try and see where it fits between all those. And being a vet rider, I'm interested. I want to know what this thing's about. I want to know if it's got the power of a 450, the handling of a 250, or maybe it's all just a crazy mix and just feeling the weight of the bike. So this bike, I'm sure it's going to be good for like a beginner junior rider just wanting to get in that open class, or maybe a vet rider like myself, or a young pro making that step from 250 Pro to 450 Pro. At 450 might be too much. Get this 350. We're actually going to take it for a test ride. Also, notice on the bike, Royal sent us a nice little vet stand, a little push-up stand there, the A1, and we're going to test that out today. I got it propped up there right now, but man, all about the vet riders here, as I used to be an ex-pro, so I got a little bit of time on a bike, and we're going to give this 350 a try at the track. All right, there you have it, the KTM 350 SXF. And the F is for fun because, man, this bike is fun. I enjoyed so much about this 350. I talked about it coming in, excited to try it between the 250 and the 450, and man, it didn't disappoint. Right off the bat though, I wanna say that LS1 lift stand, wow, saves my back. Vet rider status, need that little pump stand, and that thing works nice and smooth and holds the bike up. I know in the past, lift stands have been a little rocky. That thing's solid and holds the bike up nice, even in this grass here. But getting to the bike, first thing I noticed when I jumped on the track was it felt lighter. And I know, you're gonna say, Kyle, it's 1 pound difference on paper, but it's the way the motor works in that frame. It makes it feel light and nimble. So right when I got on the track, I felt like it was a 250 light-wise, getting in and out of the corners. It didn't feel luggish and heavy, so I like that. Then going to the power side of things, like I said, vet rider. I don't love a lot of power. I just need something that just gets me over the jumps well, can get through the whoops and handle out of the corners quick. I'm a bit lazy on the throttle, so this thing had everything I needed. A nice smooth transition, nice power delivery, and man, I just instantly fell in love with this bike because I did love the gas. And this is the KTM version of the 350. And that's the beauty part of these things. You get the KTM, oh, I don't like orange. Well, go get a Husky, go get a gas. Those things, red and white. So this KTM, perfect little setup. One thing I did adjust, the two things actually I did adjust, suspension going out. I took the tips from 26 Suspension Steve Beatty. We just adjusted the stock suspension to do the sag, and just make sure the compression was good so it could handle the bumps, the whoops, the corners a little better for me. So that, right out of the box, stock suspension, no springs, no nothing, just a little adjustment with the air, a little sag, and it's mint. The other adjustment I wanted to mess with on the track was the traction control and the mapping button. So these two buttons, I gotta say, the traction control on a hard pack track, I call it the magic button. This thing made the bike stick like Velcro out there. It felt super controlled, and just the power delivery just made it better. When I switched back over off the traction control, it had a lot of torque, but that's not what I wanted for a hard pack track. If I'm going to a sand track, yeah, maybe add a little torque to it, maybe something a little deeper ruts. I'd want to add that, take that traction control off and add that torque. The map 1 and 2, I stuck with the map 2, and it's the similar as it kind of works hand in hand with that traction control. It just kind of lugs the motor, makes that back wheel stick like Velcro to that clay dirt. So maybe a map 1 and no traction control on something a little looser where you can really turn that throttle on. Map 2 with the traction control on a hard pack like we rode today. So my end grade for this thing, I'm bad at grading because I love everything. This thing is 10 for 10 in my books. It suits my style perfectly. And if you're a pro rider, just getting into the pro ranks, maybe you want to try your hand at the 450 class, this is a perfect bike for you. It doesn't got that aggressive hit like the other 450s. Feels light like your 250 that you're coming off of. I would buy this thing up in a heartbeat. And like I said, it comes white, red, or orange, KTM, Husky, and the gas. So you get to pick of your flavor. And this 350, if you're a vet rider like myself, get it. Get it out of the box, get it out of the showroom floor, and ride this thing. This is a perfect bike. I want to say all those guys riding the 450s maybe got a little bit of a jump out of the corner, but this thing ain't gonna wear you down. This thing's gonna go the distance, and you're gonna love it. So like I said, just mess with the traction control and that mapping, and did a couple clickers like Steve taught us, and this thing's money and ready to go racing, just like the slogan, KTM, ready to race. And I give this thing 10 for 10. Recommend it for all riders from beginner all the way up to vet and everything in between. And there you have it. As another segment at the farm. Continue watching. We're gonna jump to a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with some more insideX. And there you have it, another show in the books. But before we let you go, we're going to go to that KTM social we promised you. And it's all about the mini bike Triple Crown. So many great posts and great vibes all day long, and just everybody just enjoying being outside. Ontario's been in a lockdown, so I think pit bikes always fun, and then being able to be at the track racing and in a fun environment, right? You're riding pit bikes, it's not as serious as riding a big bike in that pro class. So for us at Jetworks and for the riders, a fun day all day long. And right off the top here, Baden Brunning doesn't have the best number set up, but man, Interlace Photos taking care of him and making him look sharp there on his Yamaha TTR. And always good to see all the different brands out there, pit bikes. And then it's Tyler Jackson there battling it out with his buddies on that 125 to 150 class. So Tyler Jackson, he actually ran up front a bunch there on his Yamaha. So he was dialed in. And it was cool to see an old friend, Lori Shenny, out there. She was taking some photos. So check out her on Instagram. She had some great shots, action shots of the guys all day long. And man, the battles throughout were incredible. Direct Moto was on hand, and there's a great shot of Weston Rosina getting that number one plate in the highly touted the 70 to 110 pro class. 40 entries in there. Had to qualify down to 20 for the A final, 20 for the B final, and Weston and his brother Cam put on a show. And like I said earlier in the show, Flow Racing has all the archives. You might want to check out those battles because it was like Rosina's could not get a start. They came through the pack, and they were able to win that championship with Weston, Cameron getting second. But man, that 7110, very entertaining. Another great shot there. It's J.R. Wozni, and he was going up against the Roberts brothers for that 125 to 150 title. He came up just a bit short when it got a little bit slick out there. Roberts took advantage of that last moto. It went a 2-1-1 over Wozny's 1-2-2. So great battle there in the 125 to 150 pro. And there our site there, the Triple Crown. You got a nice little slide there from Interlaced Productions. Those guys were on hand all day taking photos. And man, it's cool to see. There's a good shot of Donnie T and his, I believe it's his youngest daughter, maybe his middle daughter, Penny. And she was out there riding the 50 class as well as the 110. And then the 110 pro class was Donnie. He was ripping that on his Cowie. So good fun all day long. And that just leads us to our next endeavor, and that is the Triple Crown Series starting July 2nd. We put the mini bike away. We get out the big bikes. We got the 250 and 450s coming at you Friday, July 2nd, and that's going to be on Fox Sports, which you're watching this on right now, or Flow Racing. If you don't have a TV provider, you can stream it, get that Flow Racing app, and it's going to be all the coverage every weekend on both those networks, Fox Sports and Flow Racing. So July 2nd, they're going to start, and it's going to be a 3 p.m., so an afternoon showing. So get your work done for the day, get off work early, get home, 3 p.m. That first moto is going to drop, and it's 250 Pro. These are normal 30-minute plus 2-lap motos. Let's see who's the new 250 winner going to be. Anybody going to chase down that number one plate of Dylan Wright? We know he was super dominant last year, and just like we said earlier in the show, it's going to be tough beating that GDR Honda Fox Racing rider. And then July 4th, that we're going to come back at the Triple Crown as well. But in between, sandwiched in between there, we got the Parts Canada Amateur Open on Flow Racing. And that's all the amateur. And it's going to be a regional series. So a 3-round series for the Parts Canada like we talked about before. So you regional riders going for that championship in Parts Canada Amateur Open. That's going to be televised. All second motos on Flow Racing. So I'm telling you, I can't tell enough. Like, get this Flow Racing app because you can get all the stuff from Fox Sports and Flow Racing all in one spot. And that's Parts Canada Amateur Open, and that's July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th for all those races. Then we rip right over to Gopher Dunes for round 3 and 4, and that's going to be a 1 moto format on the Saturday, and then we roll right into the Parts Canada Amateur Opens on that Saturday afternoon, and then a normal Pro National on the Sunday. We know Gopher Dunes gets nasty. It's the nastiest track in Canada, possibly North America, with how rough that place gets and the launches that they have. Obviously, Derek Schuster making some big faces out there for Pro Day, and they get some massive air on that sand track. Pretty nasty setup. So Gopher Dunes, round 3 and 4. Then we slide over to Sandalie and Ottawa. That's the final round of Parts Canada Amateur Open. We'll crown some champions there, and we'll have the Pro Day on Sunday, normal national, 30 minutes plus 2. And before we get that first weekend off, and then we'll head over to Deschambault, Quebec for rounds 6 and 7. So it's a back-to-back day there. It's a Sunday, Monday for those pros. So those guys having to work on Monday, and that's going to be a single modal format on Monday, normal race on Sunday before we head back to the Transcan, and that Transcan will be live there as well on Flow Racing, and everything you can catch Fox Sports Flow Racing. That is all the time we have today, though, folks. Tune in next time, episode 11. We'll bring some more great content from the races. Thanks a lot, and this is insideX signing out.